Hello and welcome back to Three Questions Podcast. My name's Cam King, and thank you guys for listening. Three Questions Podcast is primarily a short, hard-hitting podcast, 10 to 20 minutes, where I answer about three questions each. I'll give myself 5 minutes to dive into some of these questions, and this is mostly for my marketing, advertising, and personal coaching and consulting clients, where I work on helping people with their mindset, growing their business, and executing better habits, and just kind of stretching their brain to be able to accomplish more and have a better outlook on where they're going. So, Three Questions Podcast, episode number 75. You can always submit questions if you would like to threequestionspodcast@gmail.com, or submit them over social media or wherever you happen to be listening or watching this podcast. And please subscribe to it if you're watching on YouTube, or leave a review if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. And if you would like to become a guest, I would love to have you on. I've recorded a lot of these solo dolo episodes myself. A lot of my own clients are submitting these questions. Sometimes when I have big questions I need to Google or I want answers to, I will ask my clients or a guest, and I will get their insight. And this is really for you guys. So please hop on, please interact as much as possible. I love answering the questions that I have in a public forum from my clients. Right now, I have about 20 clients, which is insane, but I am so grateful for that as well. So without further ado, let's hop into episode number 75. Hopefully, this isn't the first time you listen to this podcast, but if you are, welcome, and let's get into it. So set my timer here for 15 minutes. Question number one is, what happens when you don't complete your goals? Damn, I haven't read these questions, so that's a good one. For me, when I don't complete my goals, I just kick that goal down on my timeline. So the way that I've broken my own personal goals down is I have written on my board behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, I have my 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, 12 month, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, and 20 year goals. And those goals they have dates assigned to them. They have dates coordinated with them. And every single month, pretty much every single day, I'll look at these and go, okay, is what I'm doing getting me closer to these goals or getting them further away? My short-term to-do list is 1 month as well. And then my long-term to-do list, that's like 3 to 6 months. And everything after that is really like, my to-do list are checkpoints for my goals. And if at any point that my goals change, I will just wipe them off. But I have never not completed a goal. Sometimes my goals will take longer than I need to, and I will change that timeline for that goal. If that goal changes, if it morphs, if something happens in my life and that thing is no longer a viable option, that just gets wiped off. So I'm very honest and very brutal about my goals and my checkpoints, right? Again, my checkpoints are my to-dos, but if that makes sense, I don't ever not complete my goals. I can't remember one of the last times I hadn't completed my goals. Things have definitely happened where I've delayed things, or again, made them non-viable in order to be completed, and that's fine. But all of my checkpoints relate to my goals. So as I complete my checkpoints, I'm completing parts of my goals. That's kind of the simplest, most easiest way to do it. I think for a lot of my clients, when I hear them talk about their goals, they break it down in a similar way, where their to-dos are, again, these mini checkpoints in order to help orient you closer to a goal. So think about sailing, right? Think about back in the 1500s when people were sailing from Europe to the Americas and vice versa. Your goal is to get from one country to the other, but there are so many checkpoints along the way, right? Navigating with the stars or distance or days. And you kind of take this knowledge in order to chart a course, the same way that when people used to print out Google Maps or MapQuest stuff, you know a certain amount in a certain direction that you need to go. And if you're not going that direction or that distance, right, you're not going to be able to get that goal to completion. And I think that innately, I'm going to answer this from the client perspective, but when I see my clients not complete their goals, it is because they have either lost interest or they are not enjoying the process of completing the checkpoints to that goal. And that may be because their own self is realizing that that goal is not right for them, or they're putting too much effort into this. Seth Godin has an incredible book called The Dip, where it talks about having an endeavor, having an ultimate goal, having a business plan, having an outcome that you want, and being able to identify the peaks and the valleys that are sort of associated with that. And I think that when people get halfway to a goal or a quarter way to the goal, and they start to understand that that journey is going to take more from them away than what they're willing to give, that's when they kind of sacrifice that goal or they mail it in. So I wouldn't say that people ever come to fail a goal. I would say that your mentality for failing a goal or not accomplishing a goal should be, I never lose, I either win or I learn. When you can take that mentality, things become a little bit easier for you, and your self-talk becomes a little bit more honest of saying, hey, I learned something here. Maybe I didn't get the outcome that I wanted, but I learned something which inevitably gets you closer to that goal anyway. Maybe you have a direction that you don't want to go, right? I remember being a kid and I wanted to be married and I wanted to have a dad and the white picket fence and a big Victorian house somewhere in New England with all the fall leaves and colors by the time that I was 30. Okay. I'm now 34. I didn't technically accomplish that goal, but that is still something that I very much want in my future. And I now trust in the process that those things are going to happen at the right time for me. So failing or feeling like you never completed a goal is inherently the wrong way to look at it. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm rambling a little bit too much, but I want you to think about that. And I want you to self-reflect on the last time that you maybe didn't complete a goal, right? Journal about that, write about it, meditate on it, learn from it, and then make sure it never happens again. Okay. Question number 2, episode number 75. What do we got here? How do you deal with biases with clients? And are you willing to talk about any that you've encountered? So a bias to me is similar to an expectation. And inevitably, we all have biases based on our experience, based upon our lives, based upon how we see the world. And I'm sure you guys have heard this, but when people say perception is reality, that just means your perspective sucks, right? If your perception is always your reality, then your perspective really sucks. And I've said that to, instructors that I've had in the past or coworkers. And I think that when people have a perception or something, it can be similar to a bias or an expectation that we're holding to others. If I live my life a certain way and I work with a client who doesn't have the same outlook on life or doesn't believe the same things, I'm not going to keep them to a fault. I work with clients because I want to help get them to where they're looking to go. And I provide a frame of reference. I provide a mirror. I provide a intuitive guidance based upon my experiences. I'm very honest with my clients. I don't talk about things that I don't know or am pretty well versed in. And I don't try to pretend like I know something. I don't tell them that I know better. And I have had clients who have wanted to do, slightly more nefarious things. And I said, well, what do you think about that? Long term, what would your 5-year self think about that looking back? Is that how you want to be remembered? What if someone gets hurt, right? What if this is going to make a certain other person feel that way, right? Do you want to be responsible for causing that person pain? So I've never come to a scenario or an experience where I've had to overtly disagree with a client. I'm always trying to increase my own perspective and my client's perspective on certain situations that they've talked about. Now, I will talk about one particular situation, maybe even two. There's max 2 situations where I felt like I wasn't able to fully connect with a client. One, because one client had a really, really bad negativity bias. He was actually pretty suicidal for a while, but he was so negative and he would not make the changes that we talked about. Again, I wasn't trying to change him. I was trying to build him better routines to have a more positive outlook on life. And he wouldn't do these things for more than a couple days or a week, and then he would fall off and go back into these vices and addictions. And it was very difficult to watch. And it got to a point where I could no longer beat him up, mentally with my words or anything. And I had to watch him suffer. I was hoping that he would finally find a way to swim, and he kind of got there. Like, he was making such slow progress over a year and a half that we worked together. And I was running out of energy. It was draining my battery. And eventually we decided to part ways. And I think that was perhaps the best thing for him at that time. Um, Another client that I had made a lot of promises that he would continue to do these things. Again, he was giving me his word that he would put these things in, and then abruptly he decided to, disappear and ghost after paying for all of his sessions, and then came back about 6 months later and said, hey, I'd like to, use the rest of my things. And I was like, okay, I scheduled them. And then he said, no, I changed my mind. I'd like a refund. And I said, hey man, we've gone back and forth a couple times. I said, I will honor your sessions. But every time I gave him, said, here's what I'm willing to offer you. I'll offer you 50% of your things because you keep disappearing and ghosting. I can't have clear communication with you, and your word isn't there. And we came to an impasse there. So there was some negativity bias and some giving word bias that I really found difficult with clients. And I still try to find meaning or some sort of lesson from that. And I wish both of those guys well. I don't dislike them in any sort of regard, but I really have a hard time engaging with people who aren't willing to put in the work, cannot keep their word, and refuse to admit or see their own negativity bias. That is probably the most difficult and challenging things that I've encountered personally with clients. And again, at that point, sometimes all you can do is just wish them well and let them go. So if you're starting your own coaching business, please take that into account. You're not going to potentially get along with everybody. Not everyone's going to agree with you, and clients shouldn't, right? I'm not some sort of guru. I don't know everything. I just have my own perspective on stuff. So for clients, hire a coach, hire a mentor that you want to learn from, but understand you don't necessarily have to agree with 100% of what it is that they're saying all the time. Does that make sense? So think about that. Again, that's just my experience, but here is what I got for question number 3. So do you put any clients on a time frame? For example, a client of yours would have 6 months to have a certain list of things completed or accomplished. Things like a certain amount of weight needed to be lost, more money in the bank account, less debt/burdens, and or thriving relationships. Would you suggest this type of coaching to other coaches? Why or why not? Great question. Great question. My immediate answer is no. I think for me personally, my timeline for learning things that I've learned in life has been different than others. Some things shorter, some things longer. And I think that when you put pressure on other people to do work that they necessarily don't feel inherently able to do or want to do themselves, that can put undue pressure on them. I think when people go for a coach or when people go to hire a mentor, it is because they want to learn something from that person, whether it's a new mindset, a new frame of mind, lessons. I talk a lot about biology and physiology and anatomy and how to handle emotions. I also love talking about neuroplasticity and changing the brain. I talk about so much science-based things that I know the things that I talk about are true because I've researched them and I've read the books and I've watched the content, but I don't expect the clients to make changes on my time frame. I don't. I think that that's putting an additional layer of complexity to their own situations, which are completely unique across the board. I work with a ton of different men and a ton of different women, and every single one of their situations are completely unique. So for me to instill that onto them just wouldn't make sense in the way that they would need it to be. What I do is I give my clients takeaways. I'll give them tasks, I'll give them goals, I'll give them books to read, and I'll give them these mini assignments, like these kind of shadow work assignments to learn more about themselves or to put things that they want in a partner, or I call it a wants list and a do not wants list, almost like a red flag list about who they want their partner to be or what that partner looks like or the ideal job that they want, or I have them describe the house that they want to live in the future. And I'll give them these assignments so that they're compiling a list of things that they can put in a folder and access from time to time. So I don't necessarily I do have a master course that I'm developing and it's in the process of being launched on my site. But this process is one that people should be able to jump around with. I'm not going to walk people from A to Z, right? I'm going to pull out different letters from the alphabet at different times because those correspond with different lessons that a person may need. And I'm a big, big believer that no matter who you are, what age you are, we all learn the same things, albeit at different times in our life. Like we are given the same opportunities to learn the same lessons. And whether it's betrayal or relationship or business or something with friends or family, we 110% all get the same opportunities to learn the same lessons. It is something that I've seen time and time again with friends. And I've been able to mentor some younger people and I've been able to mentor some older people and vice versa. I have learned amazing things from people half my age and I've learned incredible things from people twice my age. And I feel very privileged to do that. and some of the things that I've been through have now allotted me the time and experience to share that with other people who come to me for coaching and consulting. And again, I really, really focus on the personal and professional development side of things, because I believe that you cannot thrive professionally until you are thriving personally. And if you're thriving personally, then it's time to thrive professionally. So whatever, they move in tandem with each other. One can't be higher than the other. They have to grow synonymously with each other. And if one is higher than the other, instinctively, it's going to balance out at some point. So you need to work on both of those at the same time. When you become a better person, you become a better, you know, job taker, job maker, job doer, whatever you want to call it. So you become a better professional overall when you also work on your personal attributes. So that's all I have for today's podcast. Again, these are short, hard-hitting podcasts. I would love to have more guests on. If you want to come and talk about questions, we can come up with 3 short ones. I would love to get your expertise. If you are a coach or someone looking to build a business and you want coaching and consulting, I can teach you how to make money. I can teach you how to build a website. I can teach you how to do marketing and sales and social media. I love working on that stuff with people. And of course, if you're just looking to get a little bit better of a mindset and want to develop there personally and professionally, I'm here for you. Just reach out, send me a DM on social media, comment below on YouTube if you're watching these on YouTube, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please also leave a review. That would mean the world to me. But for you guys, have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for listening. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.